Welcome back. And I'm just continuing on with the heat shrinking at the top of these guards. They were pretty well stretched from people standing on them over time, but making pretty good headway on them now, and just about got them back to a flat surface. Again, I'm bringing the panel out to this side so I can panel beat it from the side that's got no paint on it. Unfortunately, with the heat shrinking, there's really no way to stop from burning the paint off, and the real success comes out of whether you're able to blend it in nicely once it's finished, and just how many times you've got to heat shrink that area to how much paint you lose that you've got to try and blend back in and make look patinted like the rest of the vehicle. Once I've got these to where I'm happy that they're flat enough to put back on the vehicle, I'll weld the rib back in that goes across the underneath and out to the hood latch. And another thing to watch, and it's something you find when you do the first of your heat shrinking, once you're doing the outer guard and then the inner guard, then you bolt them back together. The way they fit and they pop back into shape once they're bolted together is quite different. So it changes the shape of the panel again, even after you've heat shrunk it all. And then you also get another shape to the panel when it's bolted to the vehicle as well. So it takes a fair bit of trial and error with a few panels first to sort of work out where you need to have the panel, how much you need to have it heat shrink, so that when it's bolted together it doesn't just pop down again. Yeah, takes a fair bit of learning to get it all nice when you're bolting it together, to know that it's not going to drop out of shape again. And that's why with all these old Land Rovers back, 25, 30 years ago, when people were mucking around with the pre-productions and 48s and all that sort of thing, most of them just had all the panels swapped out because a lot of people just didn't have the skills or weren't prepared to learn to heat shrink. So, yeah, most of the stuff was thrown away. And it's definitely well worth the perseverance, because once you first crack that code and you've got the heat right and you make a successful first heat shrink and the panel drops into shape, there's just nothing like it. It's just one of those things that brings a lot of enjoyment. And no amount of I'll just pop down the shops and buy a new one will cut it. And the old restorers, they were craftsmen. They could just turn their hands to all the things that the vehicle needed to get it across the line. And the industry's changed heaps since then. You've got 10 or 15 different people. Each person knows their different trade, and yeah, it's just sent off to different places, and yeah, there's not the knowledge or the skill in the one shop that what they used to be in restoring cars, especially, some of the really unique type aluminium built cars, not just old Land Rovers. It's just one of the unfortunate things and sacrifices at the time we live in, really. Now it's just about someone shopping it around or shopping out and getting it done somewhere else and just putting their hand out for the money and taking the credit at the end. It's quite different. I mean, I feel sorry for a lot of the guys with the skills that are working for some of these companies that get no credit at all. It's just old mate there standing there taking all the credit at the shows, and it does very little that's getting all the credit. That's why, in the industry itself, I think I spoke about it in earlier videos, there's a lot of people really got the shits on at the moment about all these so-called car builders taking all the trophies, and really all they were was a project manager. They didn't do any of the work, they didn't have any of the skills, but they were pretty good at taking the credit. So yeah, there's right throughout the industry, there's a bit of bad blood with all that sort of stuff going on these days. With all this stuff, it's not about being the best or that you can be at it or whatever. You're just restoring your own car. So it's just, more I'd encourage people to get out there and have a crack and have a go. You can't muck it up. And get the enjoyment out of it. There's a lot of enjoyment to be had. You rock up to a club meet or a show or whatever, and you've done all the work yourself. You can sit back with pride and enjoyment. Yeah, there'll be all these show ponies that have bought everything brand new and their car's the most immaculate thing you've ever seen in your life. But you should definitely stand back proud that you've done it all yourself and not just gone and bought everything brand new. I mean, there's 1,000 different ways to do everything, but the most enjoyment is out of doing it yourself. There's more enjoyment there than having big heaps of money and just throwing dollars at it. You never get the same enjoyment out of it as doing the work yourself. And in a really great case of irony, now they're treating people with mental health problems, you know, that have got bucket loads of money, and, you know, they're seeing counsellors. One of the ways they're treating their mental health is getting them to stop what they're doing and just start being creative. They're getting them in the garage and building things, and it's making a huge difference in the mental health department. I watched something about it on TV a couple of years ago, and it's being used widely in the Australian farming community, you know, to treat mental health problems. So there's definitely some irony in that everyone's running around chasing money and getting all stuffed up in their head, and the way that they're solving it is to get them out there and just creating, and just getting that enjoyment out of creating. You know, I know people that there's absolutely no way they'd ever build a car or be creative or whatever, because they're just so obsessed about money. They can't, you know, they just can't calm down enough to see how creativity would work. You know, they've just got that. It's all drummed into their head. Whereas, why would I do that when I could just pay someone to do it? But they're not getting the big picture. That they're not getting any enjoyment at all out of what they're doing. You know, who's ever seen a happy rich person? Yeah, the enjoyment out of being creative is definitely next level. I've always enjoyed it. I mean, I can remember even when I was at high school, you know, you're doing metalwork or woodwork or whatever, you know, I was just right into it. I mean, even when I was at high school, I was going to my uncle's places, you know, and they were, you know, engineers and that sort of thing, and they had all the tools, and I'd just be ripping things apart, motorbikes, everything like that, because I just love the creativity. You know, just got so much enjoyment out of it. You know, I'm sure most people have not, you know, torn something to pieces or built something. It doesn't have to be a car; it can be anything. But just that enjoyment when you're standing back, even if it's not finished, and you're just looking at the work you've accomplished, and you're just sussing out the work that's ahead, and that enjoyment, mate, no money in the world can give you that enjoyment. You know, one of the funny things I get a laugh out of is old Donald Trump. He's the leader of the free world, and he's got more money than you can poke a stick at. But from the minute he gets out of bed to the minute he goes to sleep, he is just wired in one full argument for the whole day, and he would get no enjoyment out of his money whatsoever. And it's just funny how society programs you from when you're very young into that thing that, you know, money's going to make you happy. I mean, you know, stand back and have a look at old Trumpy just for a short while. There's no way that guy is happy. But I don't think I'd be able to talk him into beating some old Land Rover guards on the bench for a while to get him to calm down. But the creativity, it's like one of those old mind tricks. It's like riding a motorbike, you know. It's the old saying that when you're out riding a motorbike, you freeze your mind. Well, it does, because you've got to concentrate on so hard on riding that bike that all your thoughts just go into riding the bike, and it's quite clearing for the mind. It's like anything like that. And that's it for creativity. You know, you're just concentrating so much on the job at hand that, yeah, nothing else comes into your head. And I'm sure other people do this. You know, you see stuff now, different YouTube stuff of people that, you know, do this sort of thing. You know, they're building cars or whatever. But I get a lot of enjoyment out of watching their shows, because I can sit down and watch them, and I'm just getting exactly where they're coming from. You know, like I can feel their vibe. You know, I'm sure many others that are watching this can too. You know, if you are a very creative person, just watching someone else being creative is quite relaxing as well.